what we'll do here is a simple test of HTML headings, and we'll have a paragraph as well, just for fun. One thing that is important to realize quite early on in web development is that the browser does a lot of the styling for you. So if you don't have any styling in here, which we don't, there's no styling in there at all, then it doesn't mean that there's no styling on your web page. There is styling on your web page because the browser hasn't found any, so it's made its own interpretation. So if we look at the H1 heading here, we can see the styles that the browser has applied. This is the user agent style sheet. So it's set a display as a block. It's set the font size to 2 it's set margins, and it's set the font weight to be bold. Well, all of those things are quite likely to be exactly what we want, but I always think it's a good idea to be in control, and if you don't set these parameters yourself, then the browser is going to set them, and that's the browser belonging to the user, and there could be thousands of users around the world who are using different browsers, and they're seeing something different, perhaps, to what you intended. So I think it's better to make it explicit what you intend as much as possible. Of course, there's no end of detail you can go into with this, but I think the basics will get you a long way. So what we'll do is we'll put some styles in here in the head section. So I'll go style and then /style to close that, and then I'll make some space. And one thing that is quite common in web page design is to set everything to defaults. So I'm going to do a little bit of that here. So I'm going to do H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6 and paragraph. So all of those separated by commas will have the same styles applied. So let's set some things to be normal. So one thing that I like to do is set the margins to be 0, because you can always change them later on. This is the thing that the HTML, the styles, they flow down the page. So whatever comes later overrides whatever came earlier. So it's just nice to start with a margin of 0, so you don't have to wonder what margin the browser is applying. You know that it's applying 0 margin, and then you can put in whatever margin you want later on. So let's set the margin to be 0. Let's set a font. So font family, we'll set that to be Arial, which is pretty common. Most people would have that, and if they don't have that, they can use their system's default sans serif font. So let's just have a little look at that and see what it looks like. So go over to the browser and refresh the page. So we can see now that the margins have disappeared. Another thing that I like to do is set padding to be 0 as well, just in case. I don't think it's going to make any difference to... It's not going to make any difference here, no. But it does with some other things you could be using it on. So what else? We'll set the font weight, my clumsy typing, to be normal. And you might say, well, why do you want your headings to be normal? Well, my response to that would be, I want to be in control, and I want things to be normal until I choose them to be different. So that's probably enough to be going on with. I will just... No, that's fine. That's fine. That'll do to be going on with. So let's just save that and refresh the page. So that's what we've got so far. So now that we've reset everything to default values, we can start to individualize. Oh, one more thing. I'll just set a default font size. Font size 24 pixels. Let's just do that. So refresh the page and everything's the same size. So now we should be getting a feeling of how we can be in control rather than the browser being in control. And you might say, well, some of this is a bit redundant. And I'd say, yes, it is. But in a complex workflow where you've got many, many styles, I feel that the clarity of expression outweighs a little bit of redundancy. So you might have different opinions on that. So let's do the H1 style and set the things that I want to be different. So the H1, I'll want the font weight definitely to be bold. And I'll set the font size to be 32 pixels. And I'll set the margin bottom to be 1M. So that makes it, whatever font size you've set, it'll set the margin at the bottom to be the same as that. So refresh it now. So we get the H1 heading looking pretty much as we need it to do. And 32 pixels, it's a good size for an H1 heading, and I personally would have few reasons to go above that. Of course I would if I thought it was appropriate, but normally I wouldn't. So H2, what we need it to be is, we need that to be a heading, so definitely bold again. And there's my spelling again. And this time I have a font size of 24 pixels. And once again we'll have a margin bottom of 1M. Okay, save that and then refresh the page. There we go. So I'll just cut and paste some of this and do the H3. So H3, it's getting down in size, but you might still want it to be bold. I'll make that 20 pixels and I'll make a smaller margin of 0.75 M, so 3/4 of an M. And let's do the H4 as well while I'm at it. So I'll do H4, and this time I'm going to have it normal. I'll stick with the same font size as the previous H3 and make that 20. And I'm going to make it 0.5 M. And this time I'm going to give it a colour. So let's give it a colour and let's make it red. Simple as that. So save it. Now we start to see some variations in this. I won't do the H5 and H6, so I'll just go straight down to the paragraph. So the paragraph would be P, and I think font size 16 pixels is a good size for a paragraph, and a margin bottom of 0.5 M. So we'll take a look now. Okay, so this is all looking quite good. I haven't done the H5 and H6. One of the things, but one of the things which is important, I think, in design is to have these having grades of visibilities. So the H1, it's got to be big and punchy. The H2, it's got to be noticeable. The H3, it's more of a utility, and you put that at the head of a paragraph. The H4 is where you've got a paragraph that's got several subsections. So you need to get smaller and more different each time that you go down. So using the colours and the font weight, there's the font weight there, there's the colour, and the margin bottom, and differentiating those can help you come down gracefully in your heading sizes. And if you're starting to use H5s and H6s, then you might start to consider that you're getting a bit too complicated. Okay, this is one way of looking at headings, and the important thing is, I feel, to be in control and understand that if you're not in control, then the browser is in control, which is not a bad thing, but I think it's better to have your own influence on how your users see your web pages. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next video.